fools on the heat. My people are no fools on the heat. You must let my people go, so we can rule from Cape to Cairo. You must free my people's hands, so we can rule our purpose land. I wanna know who owns the land. Who wanna know who owns the land? Okay, now listen carefully. Chinese are ruling the Chinese land. Japan is ruled by Japanese. England is governed by Englishmen. America is governed by Americans. So, Africa must be ruled by Africans. I wanna know who owns the land. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. We must rule our purpose land. I said, we want to know who owns the land. I want to know who owns the land. Aslan, hey, Papa Aslan, Papa Aslan, Papa Aslan. Must be free. Angola want to know who owns the land. Mozambique want to know who owns the land. Namibia want to know who owns the land. I said, Soweto want to know who owns the land. Zimbabwe want to know who owns the land. African freedom fighters want to know who owns the land. Papa Slam. Now listen to the history. We've been here since creation. We've been here since creation. What a wonder. Since the time of sun and sun. Since the time of moon and stars. Since the time of air and sea. Since the time of men and things. We must run from Cape to Cairo. Okay, now I want to talk to my now we are the crossroads. On the Femo, Dambela. Billy Solo, Danita. On the Femo, Dambela. Opalimu Maya Baba. Opalimu Jasu Yaraka. Opalimu Zizanya Vetonge.
All right. Welcome to the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, it is a privilege to come to you with updates on the struggle for the actualization of the independence for the Southern Cameroons, AMBAZONIAN. And I want to welcome all of you who are joining from across the globe, AMBAZONIANs joining from across the globe, and of course, empathizers of this struggle, the AMBAZONIAN struggle, who are also joining from across the globe, from ground zero in particular, and of course our restoration fighters who are out there defending the rights of AMBAZONIA to be free, and our refugees out there on ground one, on ground two, in Gabon, in Ghana, wherever you find yourself. Thousands of you in Mexico, thank you for joining today. And of course, the rest of the diaspora across the globe, thank you for tuning into ABC Amber Television. For those of you who do not know, ABC Amber TV is 24/7 across all of Africa by way of satellite, and you can receive it in the rest of the world through Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. We are actually working on an app that can enable every potential fan to watch ABC 24/7, because again, when we come to you live through the social media, we are doing so simultaneously on satellite too. And when we are done broadcasting on the social media, ABC is still running 24/7 on the satellite. So when we develop the app and put it out there, you will be able to watch what Ground Zero and the rest of Africa is watching the rest of the time that you do not find us live on Facebook or the social media. Again, thank you for tuning in. My apologies for coming quite late today. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult putting things together to come to be with you on time. But I am glad I am here. I am excited with the presentation that I bring to you today. I have a house lineup, a guest lineup that you will love to hear from. And I have some very, very important issues to bring to you today. Please, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, go ahead, hit your share button. Let us quickly fill this platform. Let us quickly fill this platform. Make it 700. Let me come to you right away with the presentation. Let me come to you right away with the presentation. So please go ahead and hit your share button. Go ahead and hit your share button so I can come to you with this presentation. I am waiting for you to hit the numbers. Hit the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the numbers so I can come to you. Again, I got some very, very interesting issues to bring to your attention today, and I have a very, very exciting line up of guests to bring to you today. So please hit your share button and let us quickly get this done. Let us quickly get this done so I can bring the program to you proper. Okay. All right. So please, let's do so very, very quickly in the next few minutes. Bring me the 700, so I can come to you with a presentation. All right. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, again, it's a pleasure to come to you. Today, I am waiting for you to fill this platform. Fill the platform with the audience. Fill the platform with the audience. Hit your share button. Hit your share button. Let us saturate the platform with at least 700 people so I can come to you with this presentation, ladies and gentlemen. I'm still trying to put some things in order here. So please go ahead, hit your share button. All right. So, Again, I have very, very important issues to bring to your attention today, and I just would love to start with less than 700 people. We're almost 500 right now, so please, if you are just joining, go ahead and you hit your share button. And while you do so, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to remind you of the Amber World Drive that is coming up at the weekend. The Amber World Drive coming up at the weekend. We know it is the turn. It is the turn of Ndonga Mantong. Talking about Nkambe. I think Ndu is part of Ndonga Mantong. Unfortunately, again, I have never been up there. And I think when you talk about Ndonga Mantong, the places that come to my mind easily are Nkambe and Ndu. I think there are other important areas there. But that notwithstanding, this weekend we are gathering to lift up our comrades in that county. We must not let them to falter. We are so much aware, very much aware, that Ndonga Mantong happened to be one of the bastion of the CPDM elite in Ambazonia. And I think it is time we send a strong message, a very, very strong message to those elite that indeed Ambazonia controls Ndonga Mantong, and Ambazonia dictates what goes on in Ndonga Mantong. That Ambazonia is for Ambazonia. I'm talking about Ndonga Mantong being for Ndonga Mantong. So please, I am appealing very, very strongly. This is the land of Pa Info, Ngala Info. The man who has served this revolution with awe. I mean, he was in here. In this struggle ever before some of us ever thought about this struggle. And I think this is the time, this is the moment to honor Dr. Info, Ngala Info, the man who is right now languishing in the cells of French Cameroon, in the Kondenge, in the colonial capital in Yaoundé. Let us come out to send a strong message to La Republique du Cameroon. You may lock up our leaders, but their spirit is still here with us. We stand with them, we support them, we will continue to support them, and we must support Pa Info, Ngala Info. So please, let us, ladies and gentlemen, let us do so. Let's show up in our numbers. Ambazonians, not just Ndonga Mantuans, all Ambazonians. Let us show up and support them. I think also we are remembering Ngaribu. Ngaribu happened, I think, in Ndonga Mantong, correct? Ngaribu took place in Ndonga Mantong. This is where we come out to prove our solidarity with that Ngaribu community, ladies and gentlemen. Many people have now evacuated that community. There are only a few people left out there. But again, I think this is the moment. This is the moment that we come out to support that community. Right. This is the moment we come out to support that community, ladies and gentlemen. So please go ahead and hit your share button. We're almost hitting 600. Hitting 600 for those of you who have just joined. Go ahead and hit that share button. If you are watching by way of Facebook, hit that share button. If you are on YouTube, whatever you can do, we appreciate it. Again, 600, almost here, almost 600 here. So please do that. But as you do that, again, I am reminding you of the event we have at this weekend. Ndonga Mantong World Drive. Ndonga Mantong World Drive. So far, ladies and gentlemen, we've had Manu, we've had Bui, we've had Fako, we've had Ngo Ketinjwa, Ketunjia. Some those names can be a little bit difficult to pronounce at times, so spare me, please. So we've had Ngo Ketunjia, we've had Mezam, we've had Momo, we've had Lebialem. Those are 7. Yes, 7 of them. How many left to go? 6 left to go with Donga and Mantung coming up this Sunday. We will be left with 5 to go, and the world is quaking. And of course, La Republique, ladies and gentlemen, is quaking, jittery with what they see coming out from you out here in the diaspora, even up to Washington, D.C., the lobbyists, they are worried. They are worried because they know a hole of money for them is about to be sealed, and completely sealed for good. So please, let us remember, let's come out this Sunday, stand with Pine for Ngalamfo, stand with those children who were massacred in Ngaribu, stand with lovers of freedom, independence, liberty in Donga Mantung. Let's send a message to the, what do they call them, Gerard Woos, Gerard somebody, I don't remember the other name. Yeah, let's stand and send a message to those La Republique du Cameroon, CPDM cronies in Donga Mantung. That is it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've hit over 700 already. Thank you so very much. I have no reason to delay this presentation for a minute. So once more, I'd like to welcome all of you who have tuned in from across the globe, and especially you tuning in from ground zero. We hope that you all remain strong, resilient, and determined to have nothing but to see our flag, our anthem permanently raised and sung in our headquarters in Boya one of these days. So, again, I am bringing to you a number of issues today. Number one, a commentary on a commentary that I brought to you last week. I think that was Monday, on the subject of women so-called Southwest and Northwest women group on the ground. I mean, when I say on the ground, I'm referring to ground zero, AMBAZONIAN. I am bringing you another commentary on that report that I brought to you. Then, of course, we have also learned that some 105, ladies and gentlemen, 105 bilingual, so-called bilingual schools have been established in Cameroon, and quote, including Ambazonia, as they will love to call it. We shall be talking about that. But most importantly, we shall be talking about a plot in Washington, D.C. by French Cameroon lobbyists to tag the leaders of this struggle and the Ambazonian struggle terrorists. That is a very, very important developing story that I will bring details to you. And after that, I will bring in our lineup of guests that include Dr. Patience Abidu, bring in Intumfoin, Bo Herbert, and Barrister John Fru. And so they are all joining me on the set. All right, having said that, ladies and gentlemen, last week I came to you with a rebuke, essentially, a commentary on the position that the group called Southwest Northwest Women League or so took on Monday to protest and announce ghost town lockdown that we passed down. We at this interim government and other leaders of this struggle declared on ground zero, precisely in the northern zone, all of the northern zone. The women of the Southwest and Northwest League, or whatever they call it, had come out to protest that declaration of lockdown, total lockdown. And they essentially stated that we were adding pains. The secessionists and the separatists, as they call it, were adding pain on the already suffering people on the ground in Ambazonia. This message did not come from the suffering people, but these women whom we have recognized as contractors for French Cameroon came out with that statement. Now, after listening to what they put out there, I came out on Monday, and this is partly what I said. Ladies and gentlemen, they are all contractors. They are all contractors for French Cameroon. These women are contractors for French Cameroon. And these are the same women that French Cameroon is using in the name of humanitarian NGOs, to go out and spy on the camps of our fighters. These women, they may say they are neutral, but let me assure every one of you out there, they are lobbyists for French Cameroon. Let me ask these women a question. They can come out and protest, ladies and gentlemen, protest against this struggle. Look at them. Let me ask these women, how many times have we seen them protesting the killing of their children, the killing of their husbands, the killing of their brothers, the killing of their own sisters, of course, their own children, their own neighbors? How many times have they stepped out in their placards to protest against the killing, these killings in their own villages and towns? Ladies and gentlemen, that was partly the statement that I took out on Monday, essentially indicting those ladies for doing what they did. Now, my commentary was based on a report that was put out on a blog, a news blog that some of us will rely on for accurate reporting. And that story stated that this woman had stepped out to protest, to strike against the call for a lockdown in the northern zone. After finding out, after the report and the commentary, that the ladies did not actually go out to demonstrate or to protest our lockdown, that they only put out a press statement condemning our lockdown call. Yesterday, I thought it was good. I called the leader of that group to, first of all, tender an apology for misinterpreting what they did. Again, they did not go out to the street to protest. They merely put out a statement. Of course, it was a statement of protest. But yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, I gave a call to the leader of the group whom you find on your screen, Mrs. Sally Mbomian. I gave her a call yesterday to apologize for misinterpreting what exactly their action was. And I had we had a cordial discussion, and I had the opportunity to invite Miss Sally Mbomian to ABC, to come to ABC, take the opportunity to explain to Ambazonians what exactly the mission of the snot woman is. Miss Mbomian did not agree to come on ABC. She turned down the invitation, and of course, again, would not want to appear on ABC for reasons best known to her. But I want to say this. In spite of the fact that I apologized to her for saying that they went out to protest our call for a lockdown. I have no apologies whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen, for whatever that I put out there. Let us not forget, this is war. And every action, be it from a man, a woman, or a men's group, women's group, that does not cater for the opinion of the overwhelming people of Ambazonia for a free and independent southern Cameroons. We will not sit here and pretend that let's just respect it, maybe because they are women, they are untouchables. No, absolutely not. The challenge is still out there for Miss Sally Mbomian and her group to show us there are Ambazonian women languishing behind bars in French Cameroon. Can they show us the evidence that they have visited them? And yet they say they are women. We want to know how many Ambazonian women in Kondenge, in Set, that they have visited. We want to know how many Ambazonian women in refugee camps these women have visited. You need no visa to cross the border in a car to go to Nigeria to visit those refugees. If you are real women and real mothers, tell us how many of these refugees you have visited. Our towns and villages have been burned down. I have not seen you raise a single placard to call on La Republique du Cameroon to stop their vandalism and the razing down of our towns and villages. Your husbands, your neighbors have been killed, maimed. I have not seen you carry a protest to Dion Gute's office to say, stop the war. But you have the effrontery to come and tell us when we declare lockdown in the interest of the people, to tell us we are putting pain on the people. How many thousands of French Cameroon troops are in our territory putting pain on our people? You don't have this courage to tell them to move out. But we declare for a lockdown that will serve the interest of the same people who have no homes. You come out and you protest. Ladies and gentlemen, no apology for what we put out there. Anyone, man or woman out there, serving the side of French Cameroon, we have an eye on you. We have an eye on you. And in due season, you will give account for your stewardship in this struggle. Absolutely. You will give account for your stewardship in this struggle. And ladies and gentlemen, one thing we should know is this. I have been contacted by a number of diplomats, and I don't mince words, telling them what I am saying here now. These women, majority of them are not even Ambazonians. These same women, they travel around Europe, travel around the USA, and they lobby for a one and indivisible Cameroon. No, we are no longer there. We are no longer there. We are no longer Ambazonians. We are no longer Cameroonians. We are not Anglophones. We are Ambazonians. So I just wanted to, again, make this emphasis. Let Ambazonians know we will not pander to a group that is out serving the interests of French Cameroon in the guise of NGOs that are lobbying, serving French Cameroon. I am joined, ladies and gentlemen, with one of the women leaders in this struggle, in the person of Dr. Patience Abidu. Dr. Patience, it's a pleasure to have you, ma'am. Welcome to ABC with the anchor man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Secretary Chris. Thank you for having me here. I want to extend greetings to all our fellow Ambazonians watching from all over the world. I salute you this day.
Thank you. Thank you. Tell me where I am wrong in my talking points about this woman statement, warning, telling Ground Zero that lockdown or ghost towns bring pains to them. I don't know if whether you were out there. If you were out there, you will give the same message.
Well, it is very obvious that these women are not part of our struggle, because if they were, they will realize the importance of lockdown. They attest that lockdown causes more pain for our women, more pain for our children, but they should react in a different way. Secretary Chris, I really wonder where these women are. I have thought about it, and I'm thinking that they are not Ambazonians. Any Ambazonian will see this differently. They will have to ask, what is the purpose of lockdown? The reason of that lockdown was we didn't want our colonizers to come into our land to start the idea of reconstructing. There is a famous saying that there's no peace without justice. So we want to ask this lady, where is justice that you're asking us to not go with our lockdowns? Secretary Chris, it's so sad, because as mothers, as women, we bear the brunt of carrying our babies for the full pregnancy term, 9 months to say the least. And then also the pain of childbirth. And we've lost so many of our children over the course of 3 years, and we're still losing them as we speak. And for these women to come and are upset with you for stating lockdown, it's a shame. It is a shame.
I'd like you to tell me, so many people ask, what should be the appropriate role of the woman in this struggle, especially, I would say, the woman on Ground Zero? What would you say?
You know, it's just a coincidence, Secretary Chris, that I just listened to an audio from a parliamentarian. I'm not sure if you've heard that audio yet. Her name is Emilia Monjua Lifaka. I just listened to an audio from her. This is a parliamentarian based in Boya who is finally condemning the Biya regime. She is saying that
that's interesting.
She has been there.
I've not listened to it.
Yes, it's interesting. She is saying that she's been in office for 18 years, working for Biya and not working for the people of Boya. She's saying that they are forced to just sit back and let the Biya regime do what they want to do, and they are given envelopes to be quiet. But what struck my mind is this. She said that Ambazonia, she used the word Ambazonia.
Is it a recent statement that she's making?
It's a recent statement, Secretary Chris. I just listened to it a few minutes ago before coming on the air. And I said, okay, God was sending this message to me just now. She said she thanks us for fighting this struggle, that Ambazonia will be free, and that she's giving us her blessing. You've got to listen to it. So to answer your question, I hope that all the women on Ground Zero can be bold enough, especially those that are working for the Biya regime, can be bold enough to listen to this lady and take a stance and support this revolution. Because if they read the history of Southern Cameroons, they will know that this independence is inevitable. It's going to happen. So it's up to them to join the train right now and make it happen sooner than later. Because the killing of our kids is something that we don't want to continue.
Well, are you aware? Do you know this women's group, the Southwest Northwest Women's Group? Because it is very interesting when I hear people trying to defend that group. We know that members of that group have been found. I remember the case of this professor with a yellow headscarf, some kind of a uniform. She is a member of that group, and she has been seen on a number of occasions demonstrating in support of the government in French Cameroon. But when they come out to Ambazonia, they want us to believe they are with us. They understand our plight. They understand the suffering of our people, but they are the same women that French Cameroon, I mean, they dine with the prime minister. They take instructions from French Cameroon. French Cameroon gives them humanitarian services and goods to go out and pass out to the displaced and so on. Isn't this hypocrisy in the first order?
It is, Secretary Chris. I mean, we have questions to ask. Where were these women when Mami Api was burned to dust? Where were these women when we had the massacre in Pinyin? Where were these women when that lady, the warden, Akafo, was brutally murdered? Where were these women where the Guzang massacres took place? Where were these women where baby Martha was killed? Where were these women when on the 14th of February of this year, we had the Garfo massacre, where the Shea family, the Sika family, young babies, pregnant women were all murdered and dumped in a mass grave? Where were they? So for them to come out now, because they have been emboldened by the Biya regime, I will not be surprised if they've been given envelopes to come and pretend that they are supporting peace. They should remember there is no peace when there is no justice. And I want to challenge them all to go back and read the history of Southern Cameroons. If they read the history of Southern Cameroons, they'll realize that they are already a colonized nation by France, and Southern Cameroons cannot be colonized by a colonized nation. They are talking about special status. La Republique is a special status nation to France. Southern Cameroons cannot come and be a second special status nation. We already declared our independence on the 1st of October 2017. So there is no going back. They can either join us and march forward for a peaceful Ambazonia, or they can stay there and continue pretending, because nothing good can come out of them unless they look into their minds and really behave as God-given children and do the right thing.
I will ask you, what message would you give to women on ground zero on the attitude of women like this one? I think honest, sincere women who are truly for the suffering people of Ambazonia, women of Ambazonia, will begin to speak the language that that lady Mafoka is beginning to speak. We also heard this guy they call Nick Ngwanyam. These are all people who have been out there selling the message of French Cameroon Confederation and Federation. Mafoka is beginning to call us exactly what we are, Ambazonia. What would your message as a woman leader be to the women on ground zero? Are these the women they should be listening to?
My message is simple. You know, there are different classes of women there in Amazonia. There are those who have the power to do something, and there are those who are just there following. Those who can just help our revolution by just providing food, healthcare for our Ambazonian warriors, you're doing one thing right there. Those who are there that have access to the government of La Republique that has colonized us and are enabling them, this is a moment for them to change and go to the opposite camp. They should go listen to this lady called Parliamentarian Lifaka, that's her name. Listen to her and join the train to Boya. Because if they continue doing what La Republique is doing, they are enabling the killing of our children. There are those women that cannot say anything because they are afraid for their lives. I understand that. You could not, it's possible not to say something, but you can act in a way that shows that you are for this struggle. You can do things in private if you're afraid for your life. Do not do anything that will give La Republique the power to continue to murder our people. Secretary Chris, they have means of supporting the prisoners that are in the dungeons. They can help the IDPs. They can help the refugees. Genuinely help this group of people. If they are not able to speak politically about our cause, there are many things that they can do on ground zero.
All right, thank you. I will bring in Barrister John Frunso into this discussion and Ntumfoin Bohebet to get their opinion before we move to the next subject. Ntumfoin and Barrister Insot, please, I'm sure you have been monitoring these ladies for the duration of this struggle, and I have no doubt in my mind that you know exactly who they represent, because some of them have been here in the U.S. and have done presentations at the State Department and some other corridors of powers, and we know that their message is not a message for a free and independent Southern Cameroon. Am I wrong? Any of you can start, sir.
I'll let Big Brother go.
Yes, I can hear you, Ntumfoin. Go on.
I was saying I was going to let my big brother go first.
Well, Chris, okay, Chris, let me come in here.
All right, go on.
Yes, since your last show, I have been doing some findings. And of course, we know that majority of those women are not Ambazonians. Secondly, we know that some of them are from the CPDM. I know of Ope Chinje. She's the rector of the University of, I don't know, I think Gaundere. She's the lady you were trying to describe as wearing a
right,
yellow.
Right, that's the lady I was struggling to remember the identity.
That is the lady. Is the junior sister to Mr. Eric Chinje.
Oh, that's the junior sister to Eric Chinje?
Yes. They have an agenda. I don't know what their agenda is. That lady has been very, very militant in the CPDM and in the support of the BR regime, coming right to Bamenda with the Prime Minister Ngute to demonstrate, to show that all the women in Bamenda are with them, and they wear yellow head ties and dance around Ayaba Hotel and so on and so forth. That is their right. But their right ends where the freedom of people start.
Right.
Look, these women have, as you rightly described, Chris, they are lobbyists. Not only lobbyists, they eat fat from the regime. They eat fat from the regime. If you see them, they dress lavishly. They don't care about lives in Ambazonia. They only care about what Mr. Bia's regime will give them. Can you imagine a woman who bears a child for 9 months, delivers that child, and watch that child riddled with 11 bullets like it happened to Baby Mata in Muyoka? Can you imagine that? None of them, as you rightly said, none of them came out to say anything. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a woman carrying a baby on the back and the baby is shot and the woman and the baby die in dock? None of those women said anything. A lockdown.
Barrister John, let me add something to that. We've had the Pinyin massacres. We did not see them show up to protest those killings by French Cameroon soldiers. We had the Bali massacres. We did not see them show up. We had massacres in the corner in Moyoka. We never saw them showing up to protest. But we call for a simple ghost town lockdown, and they protest. Go on, please.
Yes, as Dr. Patience has just said, if they don't change and turn around and join the train to Boya, they might as well take residence in La Republique. Because all of us talking here were born by women. Nobody came to this world without passing through a woman. And for this kind of women to behave as if life does not matter, they should know that Ambazonian lives matter. And they should make the difference between taking bread, soya, and sardine from La Republique cannot replace a life in Ambazonia. These women are not part of us. They should get out of Ambazonia. This is not a threat. I'm giving them advice to get out of Ambazonia while it is still early. Because we cannot afford to have our mothers behave as if the killing of our children, the killing of our brothers, the killing of our friends, the killing of all people, burning all people in their homes, does not matter to them. Where were they? Where were they, for heaven's sake? Chris, I'm very sorry. I had to mention Upe Chinje in particular because I know that family. Pa Chinje worked so hard with the wife to bring them to this world. But I don't think that is a mission that their parents gave them. To be behaving with the CPDM and being associated with massacre, it's rather unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
It is. Intumfoin, please, you got a point, you can chip it in.
Yeah, thank you, Secretary Chris. I'll try to make a few points here because I think Ambazonians need to know this. The first thing is that these women are sponsored by very many donors and very many countries and international organizations. They are sponsored by La République du Cameroun. They are sponsored by the United Nations in Yaoundé. When they traveled to the United States, their tickets were bought by the United Nations. The French embassy in Yaoundé has been running a scheme preparing people they call peace ambassadors. And that includes that group of women who are buried in that so-called lamentation group. This is the same group that when they stage a lamentation, clowning scene on the municipal stadium there in Abakwa town, Bamenda, they arranged for the international media to travel to Bamenda and be there when they did it. So people like Joe Randy Sarr from the BBC, they were all in the buses that they arranged for them to show up there and cover that event. Just as they arranged for them to be available in Bamenda when they cut off the road between Bamenda and Bafoussam and allowed them to go and cover that road and pretend that it was Ambazonians who had done it. This information that I'm giving you, these are facts. They cannot be contested. But I will tell them additional facts. And this should be sufficient warning to them. The French who are sponsoring them, the French sponsored hundreds of thousands of Algerians to fight alongside the French in Algeria. And hundreds of thousands of them were slaughtered. The French did not defend them, and they will not defend those who are acting as enablers in Ambazonia. The French themselves, they can go and read their history. The French, when they had to deal with the enablers of Hitler, when Hitler took over France, 9,000 of them were summarily executed in France. 1,500 of them were judged and sentenced to death and executed, and 40,000 were thrown in jail for long prison terms. That is what awaits everyone who is trying to get the people of Ambazonia into the situation where they're getting them. There are more than 20,000 La Republique soldiers in Ambazonia, plus over 4,000 militia that they have moved from the north into Ambazonia. They are using full gear, anti-terror gear that they have been using against Boko Haram, and they are going around and tracking down Ambazonians as if they were beasts and killing them. And people have the audacity to tell them that they don't have a right to defend themselves. And people think they can go and hang out with the regime and say it is okay to come and kill Ambazonians. There is something wrong with these enablers, and they need to stop it. The women need to stop it. They have no business backing up a military system because they're attracting danger to themselves. And nobody wants to put them in danger because we have not attacked any La Republique citizen in Ambazonia. That will include them. We welcome them. But we want to inform them and inform the world and inform the United Nations that we know that that is what they are doing. We know that they are the ones who are sponsoring these women. We know that for a fact, and they cannot contest it.
Thank you, Ntumfine. I want to add that these women are not alone. There is a segment of the media in French Cameroon that is aiding and abetting these hypocrisy by these women, and the media is also on the payroll of French Cameroon. You will all recall that only last week, Equinox Television came out announcing that French Cameroon soldiers killed 13 Ambazonia restoration fighters in the axis along Bali, Batibo, Widikum. It turned out it wasn't true. After we challenged them, Equinox came out, reversed the story, and said, actually, the reverse was true according to military sources to them. This newspaper called The Guardian Post came out with this headline, and the headline says, at least 24 Amba fighters, soldiers killed in military raids across the Northwest. And let me say this, that this paper, the Guardian Post in particular, has been in the habit, ladies and gentlemen, has been in the habit of printing only everything that is negative, that sells the image of the leaders and of this struggle in a negative way. I want to give you some examples. Take a look at this story, this cover story of the Guardian Post, for example. It says, Akwanga, Sako hit United Nations call for ceasefire. We all know that is a lie. Dr. Sako, or no, the interim government, has agreed to any ceasefire. We all know that. But how about this one? Torture of women, babies in Bali. by Ambazonian fighters. Barbaric. So the headline screams, barbaric. Now, that is what the Guardian Post does. When any fighter on the ground, they don't even know whether it is a restoration fighters, anything. Because we understand Atanganji has fighters on the ground in the northern zone. The Guardian Post is not able to tell us who these Ambazonia fighters are, because everybody, according to them, they are paid to write, to print the story that every fighter on the ground is Ambazonia fighter. But my worry is not really with that. And my concern is with this screaming headline, barbaric, barbaric. How many times has the Guardian Post screamed barbaric when Ambazonians have been slaughtered? Take a look at this one, ladies and gentlemen. For example, this is the day that there was a genocide in Garibo. Show me this. Look at the headline from the Guardian Post. The whole cover is an MTN congratulation. I think they were congratulating MTN for what anniversary, how many anniversary, I don't know. Now look at the top right corner. You see a little story there, government mute over as over 27 massacred. That is the story that should look like this one, barbaric. No, but they don't do it. They box it at a little corner, and what they care is where their bribery, their money is coming from. They promote MTN over the dead bodies of Ambazonians. Now also look at this one, again from the Guardian Post. Look at that one. Outrage as suspected Amba fighters execute couple in public. Where is the picture? Where is the evidence? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the reason we are telling Ambazonians to stay away from the media that is paid for by La République du Cameroon. Into phone, I want to come back to you because you are a professional in this area. Is this the kind of journalism that you expect in a time of a war, in a time of a conflict like this one? Or we should forget about it because they are being paid? Please, into phone.
Well, the Guardian Post is not a newspaper, and the people who work there are not journalists. So full stop, but that should be very simple. And the other thing which you mentioned, Equinox TV, by their own confession, I mean, the man who runs and owns it is my brother. You know, Severin Chunke. Anyone who knows me knows that when I went to Douala, I would prefer not to go to the hotel. I would go to his house. I also worked as a managing editor at his newspaper for a while after I left CRTV. So I know him very well. He's a hardworking guy who's done very well for his business, but he's not a journalist. He's a businessman. But there's something he has said on the air very clearly, and I want Ambazonians to keep it because it's important. That's what you do with Radio Mille Collines. That's what was happening. Severin Chunke was on the air, and he said, we are not even reporting what is going on. You remember when Paul Atanganji was pushing them around, he said they have information, which if they release, the government will be most embarrassed, meaning we are censoring on behalf of the government. Look, we are the ones making you look good. That is what Severin Chunke was saying. Remarkably, Wazizi was working for them, and Wazizi was taken out. I would not be surprised if they knew, because they were the first people to release the information. This whole network that you have out there, and it does not stop in the Cameroons. When you saw the story that was peddled around, that somehow the United Nations organization was going to declare a UN state of the Cameroons, made up of former northern Cameroons and southern Cameroons, it is paid for advertisement by La République du Cameroon because they want to throw confusion in the minds of Ambazonians, They want to get Nigeria agitated about the issue, to see that people in northern Cameroon are also asking for something which they are not asking for. It is the same mechanism that La République du Cameroun has used when it comes to Biafra, when they have sponsored even ghost towns in Biafra to try and get the Nigerian government to understand that if Ambazonia were to become free, they will be unstable. They went all the way to sponsor people in the Volta region in Ghana, so that they should rebel against the government of Ghana and say that the former Togo land needs to get its own independence. The reason La République is doing that, supported by France, is to get the Security Council and the United Nations to say to themselves that there are huge geopolitical consequences to Ambazonia becoming independent. We can tell them that this is too late. They have not only done it to the press, they have done it to human rights organizations. I want to recall to you that Human Rights Watch confessed by their own selves during the launch of a report at the United Nations headquarters that they had cleared their own report with the government of Cameroon, that the government of Cameroon had provided, I'm calling them a government, my goodness, the regime of Mr. Biya had provided a rebuttal, which they included in their report because they cannot stand on their own report. And right there at the United Nations, they gave the floor to the representative of the colonial government of Cameroon to speak at a human rights event where the Cameroon regime was being taken to task over human rights violation. That is the level to which all of these people are bought and paid for, and nobody should take them seriously.
Nobody should take them seriously. That is the point. That is the point. Let me turn to Barrister. So you have been there. You have dealt with these media companies, and in the reporting of the trials of Sisiko, the abductions, and so on. Tell us what you know about these media's dealings with the corrupt government in French Cameroon, sir.
Thank you, Chris. I agree totally with my friend Bo Herbert. Being a professional in the area, he knows more about the press than me. But let me say this. While I was on ground zero, I only saw one English-speaking newspaper that was objective. The Post in Boya. Every other newspaper could not survive in Cameroon under the circumstances. Therefore, they had to tell lies. They have to report what the government wants to be able to have money to run the newspapers. I had an interesting interaction with my late brother Nkemeyan, who just passed away under circumstances that are very, very troubling. He was telling me that the newspapers in Cameroon are barely making it, and that when they publish a story, we should look at it from the standpoint of survival. Survivor, they have to survive. But there are stories that he cannot publish, stories that touch on his birthright. And I come away with the impression that the newspapers are there to sell Ambazonia negatively. Let me come to the Guardian Post. The Guardian Post is not a newspaper that anybody worth his salt can spend 400 francs to buy. And I'm calling on all Ambazonians living in La République du Cameroun or even in Ambazonia itself, don't buy the Guardian Post. It's the worst paper that the English-speaking people have come to know. Because all they publish are negative stories, including when we were doing the case of Siseko and others. Each time I came out with a press briefing, they report a complete different story. And I tell you, La Republique has spent a lot of money trying to buy these guys to make sure that they quell our revolution. But they have not succeeded, and they will not succeed. It is too late.
I think it is important to note here, the publisher of the Guardian Post has flown to the USA on several occasions to cover CPDM conventions under the payroll of that party and, of course, that government. No other newspaper publisher that I know has done that. Even, I mean, I'm talking about the credible ones. They don't do that. You don't see them doing that. But the Guardian Post, at least more than 2 times that I know, that has happened.
That is correct. That is correct, because they have to eat fat on the blood of their brothers and sisters, and the term it survivor.
Thank you. Let's get to, let me allow Dr. Patience to quickly chip in there, then we'll move to another subject, please.
Yeah, Secretary Chris, I think there could be some sort of solution for this issue. This is a beginning right now, telling our Ambazonian that reading any of this newspaper is misinformation. Let's just let them know that they should not waste their CFA, their few little money to purchase any of these newspapers. That any important news should be coming from ABC, Amber TV. Maybe we should get our own print that the people can have access to get the real news. Because the audio that I just listened to, that I mentioned a few minutes ago, this lady mentioned that they are given envelopes to misrepresent what is happening. They are given envelopes not to fight for the people. So that if people are there listening to, reading news that is not the right news and believing in the wrong thing, it delays our progress. And I think we should do something about it as soon as possible. Basically, any news that is coming from all these papers, the Guardian, the Post, or any of those papers, should be considered as false news. And false news is not important. Don't waste your money. Don't waste your money.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if Bo want to add something there before I change topics.
Oh no, I will pass. I can just mention the fact that we have them setting up TVs right next to you there in Houston as well.
All right. All right. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we are hearing the news of some 105 schools, 105 new schools, not just new schools, but bilingual schools, so-called, created in La Republique. Now, that is inclusive of Ambazonia. Of course, they want us to believe that. 105 new bilingual so-called schools. And out of the 105, I have learned, I cannot confirm that, but I have learned that only 6 of them are in the French Cameroon territory. The rest of them, I guess, they are coming to Ambazonia as part of our new status, right? What is your take on this development here? I will start with Dr. Patience.
Well, I'm not sure who they're trying to educate at this time when there's a war. It makes no sense to be building schools when there is an active war going on. They don't believe that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, it's not about building schools. They are not building any school. They have never built schools. They are creating, the tax is on bilingual schools. And they create 105 bilingual schools. 6 are in their, how many regions do they have? 8. And I guess 99 will come to Ambazonia. Is that what Ambazonia is looking for? Some bilingual schools?
No, Secretary Chris. They are trying to really francophonize us, right? They really want us to become them. Yes, which they know we are fighting against that from the beginning. I think they forgot that we already declared our independence on the 1st of October 2017. We are an independent nation. We don't want any part to do with bilingualism. We will study our English to the core. We will develop our own nation. We'll have our own judicial system, our own educational system, our own health system. We don't need anything from them. So in short, they are wasting their time and energy.
Barrister, please.
Yes, Chris, I can see the hand of the French struggling so hard to franconize Ambazonia. I don't know where that will take them to. Converting a school to bilingual, what does that add? It doesn't add 1 franc to the running of that school. What does it mean? And who is going to run a bilingual school in Ambazonia? Look, La Republique has developed all kinds of strategies and none is working. It will not work in the educational system because our educational system has vomited the French, the Cameroon French educational system. So we don't want any bilingualism in Ambazonia. We may have bilingualism, that is English and a native language taught in our schools, native language of Ambazonia. But we don't want the French anymore. The French have been vomited just like Rwanda vomited the French out of their country. Rwanda now is purely English. And we intend to stay purely English. And let La Republique take notice that nobody in the Amazonia will respect any school called bilingual school. We're sick and tired of their so-called bilingual. I don't know what that means.
Into point. You know, as I do that, this is one of those grand plan of La Republique to completely assimilate us. Each time they talk about bilingualism, they make sure that we learn French and they learn nothing. If you are Ambazonian, you go to Yaoundé, you come to Boya, you study in English, their students studies in English. When we go to Yaoundé, we are made to study in French. It just appears like these people are not listening, These wars began over, the immediate trigger of the present situation began over teachers saying, we don't want your French teachers. But here are we. They are creating 99 bilingual schools, so-called bilingual schools in our territory. They just don't get it, isn't it?
Well, you know, La République du Cameroun is run like devil's empire. And Mr. Biya believes that he's got God's power, so he can snap like that and have created a school. That's what he's been doing. The man who cannot run the monolingual schools is now telling you that he's going to create 105 bilingual schools and run. Now, you said it was a grand scheme. Yeah, it is a grand scheme because the only bilingualism that country knows is French and Ewondo. That's the bilingualism that exists in that place. All the other francophones can fool themselves. The Bamileke people, the Northeast, can fool themselves that they belong to that country. This is a privatized country belonging to a clan run by a militia and headed by Hitler's junior brother in this age. And he's telling you to be bilingual, to do what with it? because you cannot go to the central bank and do a transaction in English. You cannot enter the military or the police force and do something in English. You cannot do a case at the judicial police, including even in Ambazonia. You
and
cannot
every
do that
one
case
of
in
their
English.
official statements comes out in French.
Yes, every one of their statements is in French. So this is the French government. Again, I try to beg the people of Ambazonia to focus here on the enemy. This is the French government. This is something that the French government has done. That's what they did in Mayotte before they took over the island. It's right there next to Africa. It is an African island that they just took over. They claim it is their own. That is what they did to the Kanaks. They said they do their depopulation. They move people from France and they create a population balance. The purpose of these 105 schools will be to move as many Francophones as possible into Ambazonia and to claim, because they tell you that, you know, this is the part of the country where English is spoken predominantly. They are trying to move populations and create what Mr. Biya said, confess to Mo Ibrahim that they had failed to do. So when Mr. Biya told Mo Ibrahim that they had failed with assimilation, I'm sure that when he walked in and met with Macron on that 10th of October, Macron told him, we are going to start back the plan that we said we were going to do with assimilation, of which Cardinal Tumi was screaming when they told him, congratulations, because you people are getting assimilated. Will not succeed, because the people of Ambazonia will not go back to school under a colonial regime. The people of Ambazonia will go back to school when our independence is restored and our teachers are in school under a curriculum established by the government of Ambazonia. And that is a right. Nobody should tell us that children are out of school. Our adults will be free to go to school up to the age of 99. We are not like La Republique du Cameroon, which bans people from going to school at the age of 25. So if you are not going to school now, don't bother. You will be allowed to go to school until the age of 90. And don't get people to fool you that your education ends when you are a youth, when you finish going through your youth. No, when you go through your youth and your hair starts to go gray like mine, that's when you should go back to school, especially in a world that is rapidly moving on technology. Don't follow a failed republic. Don't follow their system.
All right.
Secretary Chris, before you go, it just dawned upon me that it may also be a strategy to get people in our regions that will be spies. They claim that they want bilingualism. They may put only people there that will end up being spies and report our people on what they're doing. And maybe we should think about that seriously.
Well, then they are going to employ really a lot of spies, because I guess everybody in Ambazonia is now a rebel, right? Or a terrorist, they call it. Ladies and gentlemen, let us end this there and move to the story of the day. The story of the day, as you find on your screen, ladies and gentlemen, plot to attack Ambazonia leaders in the USA with terrorism. Plot to attack Ambazonia leaders in the USA with terrorism. Before I bring back my guests to give me their take on this subject, I'd like you to stay put for my monologue that lays the groundwork to our discussion. This is very, very action story that we will love Ambazonians to do something, take action after they listen to us today. Fellow Ambazonians, as we surely are aware, the interim government is grateful to the many sympathizers at the highest levels of the U.S. government who inform us whenever the French mafia in Washington, D.C. is working to scuttle our struggle for independence and freedom from La Republique du Cameroon. You certainly can still recall this past spring when we came out and protested against CIA agent Judd Devermont, who was going around talking and lying to the people in the corridors of power in Washington, D.C., how Bamilikis are Southern Cameroonians or Ambazonians. Since our outrage, I'm glad to announce to you today that he appears to have now rested his crusade to sabotage the struggle. While you are free to continue letting him know that we are aware of his actions in the past, he has largely stopped now. However, as France and La République du Cameroon wake up every day to the resolve, the unity, and the success that we are currently having, especially with the ongoing Ambazonia war drive and the determination of Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, to defend homeland to last man standing. They are neighbors, and have again started investing large sums of money and financial resources in powerful institutions in the capital of the United States, in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. Fellow Ambazonians, I come to you today with information about a report that was commissioned by the U.S. State Department in December about our crisis. The report was meant to go in tandem with a set of briefings on the conflict in our territory, the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia. This report was given to the Simon Scope Center for the Prevention of Genocide at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum around December 2019. When the report was first published, I was somewhat skeptical, as I did not understand how people could write such a report without consulting the people of the Southern Cameroons or the people of Ambazonia, represented by this interim government and other leaders out there, given that it is in our territory where mass atrocities are being perpetrated by an occupying and annexationist colonial force. However, when the report was released, I thought it would be okay, as the title was, and I quote, "The risk of mass atrocities in Cameroon," end of quote. Take note, in the Southern Cameroon, it's not in the Southern Cameroons, Ambazonia. Our first instinct reading the title of it was, oh, the report is likely on the infighting between, the political infighting between the Bassas, Bamilikis, and Bertis within La République du Cameroon, and therefore should not concern any of us who were wrong. On that premise, we thought it made sense that we were not consulted before publishing the report, as we are not party to the political crisis in that country, La République du Cameroon. However, when we read the report, we concluded that it could not be further from the truth. It could not be further from the truth. Again, take note, as I do an appraiser of the report, that it is titled, and I quote, "Risk of Mass Atrocities in Cameroon," end of quote. Risk of mass atrocities, ladies and gentlemen. Interestingly, it does not say in Ambazonia. It does not say in the Southern Cameroons, but it says in Cameroon. The essence of the emphasis here is that these people just don't think we are serious when we declared the restoration of our sovereign nation. When they write or talk about us, they are in the habit of trying at all costs to forcefully lump us or associate us with French Cameroon or La République du Cameroon. May I seize on this opportunity to once more remind everyone interested in an enduring solution to this conflict that we are not Cameroonians, that we are Southern Cameroonians, as in South Sudan, or Ambazonians. We had a relationship that turned irreconcilable, and as in any relationship that cannot be reconciled, especially when the incompatibility has to do with illegalities, including annexation and colonization, the solution is to sever ties and then part ways. We did that in October 2017, and we are defending it. If there are no more good leaders and good people in the world to come to our aid, as they are doing in East Timor, in Eritrea, in South Sudan, and France, I mean the country of France, is allowed to continue to bribe the world while directly funding a genocide on our people, we will defend it with the last drop of blood in the 8 million of us, if need be. The title of the Holocaust Museum report, ladies and gentlemen, suggests it's about Cameroon, French Cameroon. It is not, ladies and gentlemen, it is not actually about Ambazonia and ought to be rightly titled, and I quote, the ongoing genocide in Ambazonia, and not the risk of genocide as inferred. However, at first, we thought that it might not be too serious and can be a result of their own ignorance. Yet, when we scrutinized the report, we came to the conclusion that the report is not a result of ignorance, but rather a deliberate attempt to sabotage our struggle. I am now going to quote from this report to demonstrate to you several instances where they go ahead to smear us and to spread misinformation to the United States State Department and, of course, the international community. In the summary of the report, they write, and I quote, "The crisis emerged from the long-standing political grievances of the Anglophone community. Yet today," it continues, "fighting between the two sides makes it difficult to discern motives," end of quote. This is not true. The crisis emerged, we call it a conflict today, it emerged from the forced, brutal annexation and occupation of our country by French Cameroon. The crisis emerged from 56 years of rape, the rape of our heritage, the rape of our institutions and our rights as a people. Moreover, we are not Anglophones. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Ambazonians. This point they make goes in line with the same terminology that lobbyists of La République du Cameroun have used in the past. You will remember congressional staff Lauren Blanchard and Thomas Husted also calling us Anglophones. Anglophones. If we are Anglophones in our own country, then maybe Americans should be called Anglophones, considering the Spanish population in this country. The report also states that it is difficult to discern between the two sides. This is outrageous, absolutely outrageous, intellectual dishonesty, the result of pay to play. I quote, "It is difficult to discern between the two sides," they say. Hell no. We are fighting to protect ourselves, and they are fighting to kill our people, all of us, through genocide. They are occupying our territory. We are not in their territory. We have never crossed the boundaries, our boundaries, international boundaries, to fight in their territory or to fight them. We do not kill their citizens. They have killed over 15,000 of our people. We have not burnt a single property of their own in their territory. And they have burned over 300 towns and villages, ladies and gentlemen, in our territory. They don't have any refugees, no IDPs. We have over 100,000 and over 700,000 refugees and IDPs respectively. Therefore, it is a farce to suggest that, and I quote, "it is difficult to discern between the two sides," end of quote, as that report wants American power brokers to believe. The report continues to say that, and I quote again, "Meanwhile, armed separatists have been attacking and killing civilians they perceive to be associated with or sympathetic to the government, French Cameroon government. Separatists," it says, and I quote, "have brutally attacked, shot, harassed, and kidnapped students, kidnapped teachers and administrators on their way to school to enforce a school boycott in the Anglophone regions," end of quote. Again, this is not true, and I do not need to explain to you, but this seems like talking points coming directly out of the mouth of Paul Atanganji or Kawala in remarks that she gave when she was given a platform at the prestigious George Washington University in 2019. In this section of the report, we are also accused of committing sexual assault. Our people are accused of committing sexual assault. Nowhere, and I mean nowhere, in that report do they mention that these attacks have been carried out by fake fighters and vigilante forces bought and paid for by French Cameroon CPDM elite. We do still remember, ladies and gentlemen, the role that these vigilante groups played in the Ngaribu massacre. We remember that so well. The report continues to say that, and I quote, "There is no united separatist movement, but rather an increasingly disorganized collection of distinct groups, some of which are clashing." It continues, "Some separatist groups are reportedly becoming increasingly brutal in their attacks on civilians," end of quote. I do not even know what to say here, ladies and gentlemen. There is one interim government of Ambazonia that is fully united and has near total control in all counties on ground zero. The slanted and biased nature of the report and the intentions of the authors do not allow them to mention that these other groups they here referred to have agreed for federation with the Republique du Cameroon against the overwhelming consensus among Ambazonians for their own free country. The report does not acknowledge that. This report plays up the notion and does not show that there is one interim government that is in the steering wheel of the struggle. Again, the report claims that we are attacking civilians. This is just not true, of course. Footages of yours truly abound on the social media in which this interim government has condemned, strongly condemned, in this about all types of attacks on civilians, including abductions and ransom takings, and of course stealing. Fellow Ambazonians, I can go on and on and on, but the point is clear, and it is that this report from the Holocaust Museum is not neutral. It is not balanced. It is just another attempt by the French mafia in Washington, D.C. to destroy or wreck the struggle for their plantation, that is La République du Cameroun. In earnest, I guess that the title of the report says everything that you need to know about their intentions. It does not say, for instance, that mass atrocities have been committed. No, it doesn't say that. Or are being committed, as we read in everyday major report. Instead, the report futurizes current and ongoing genocide, choosing to refer to it as, and I quote, risk of mass atrocity in Cameroon, end of quote. This is a lie, as La République du Cameroun commits genocide every day. It is rather shameful and despicable that a highly respected Holocaust museum is being paid to cover up for La République du Cameroun. As if this report was not enough, a so-called briefing was held with policy influencers in Washington, D.C. on this same report over Microsoft Teams on June 17, where the two authors, who I will give details momentarily, spoke and gave recommendations as to what should happen to the conflict. In this session, they said that the international community should investigate leaders of the Ambazonian movement for violating American federal statutes in regard to terrorism. They also said that there should be a unilateral ceasefire and an official end to the rapidly advancing Swiss initiative or dialogue initiative. Fellow Ambazonians, it is clear that this report and its authors, two authors, are biased, and in fact, we have learned of details that have proven this to be true. We have learned that a retainer fund that helped fund this project or report was paid for by the Embassy of French Cameroon in Washington, D.C. to the tune of $50,000. Now we know for a fact that the United States Holocaust Museum, an institution founded to remember the killing of over 7 million Jews by Hitler, is today supporting a modern day Hitler in Paul Biya. Ladies and gentlemen, the two women who authored this report are named Andre Gideman and Kira Fox. These two women are defending the modern day Hitler, Paul Biya, and in doing so are themselves modern day genocide facilitators and defenders. Ambazonians, think about all of the pain that the genocide by French Cameroon has caused each and every one of us. And now think about these two women who have the audacity to go out and defend those who are killing, those who are raping and pillaging and assaulting our people. Now, fellow Ambazonians, this is our appeal to you. This is our appeal to you. All of us, especially those of you in the USA and Europe, must contact these two women and contact them now at the Holocaust Museum to express your outrage and anger at what they have done. Ask them, why do they support genocide? And why they work at the Holocaust Museum? when they are defending modern day Nazism and modern day Adolf Hitler. Ask them why they are now proving themselves to be active agents of Paul Biya, and in doing so, proving themselves to be racist and Nazi supporters. Ask them how they would feel if their family members were raped, maimed, killed, and their homes burned. Let them know that this report, or their report, is biased and falls short of the standard expected from such an institution of high repute. This is very, very important, as in recent weeks, this report has gotten a lot of traction, You need to go now and make sure that these women get hundreds, I mean literally hundreds, if not thousands, of emails and tweets from you, and that their personal and work Twitters and personal Facebook are flooded with Ambazonians expressing our indignation and anger over what they have done. Let's go to work now. That is the monologue, ladies and gentlemen. I will now bring back the panel, and I will start with Ntumfo, whom I guess is very, very familiar with the Holocaust Museum's report that was published, I think, about 2 weeks ago. And last June 17, they had this Microsoft Teams meeting. Microsoft Teams meeting, ladies and gentlemen, if you are familiar with Zoom, it's just exactly like Zoom meetings. They had these meetings with members of the State Departments and policy makers in Washington, D.C., and they actually suggested that the only way to stop the conflict in Ambazonia is to label Ambazonian leaders in the diaspora as terrorists, and also to stop, get a unilateral ceasefire, and to make sure that the Swiss mediation initiative is suspended and America perhaps take over. Ntumfo Hebe, you are very familiar to that report. What is your take on this, sir?
Well, the first piece of information that I can give Ambazonians, and I am just as outraged as you are, but the first piece of information that I can give Ambazonians is that Ambassador Thibaut Nagy, who is in charge of African affairs, has said very clearly that there will be no mediation by the United States. And I'm not talking old news, I'm talking recent news. So as recent as less than 24 hours ago. That's what he said. So people should forget beating about the bush with respect to a mediation that will start from the US. That said, this report, which we have been denouncing for a long time, is written at the command of La République du Cameroun. How do we know that? We know that because the Act of Congress, which established the U.S. Holocaust Museum in 1980, did not give the Holocaust Museum a mandate to do any of these reports. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, when President Trump wanted to cut the budget of the Holocaust Museum, it was in part because of the huge waste that is going on there. And now they want to find resources from other means so that they can continue to run the place. And what they are doing here, let me give them the equivalent here. The equivalent here is to go into Nazi Germany in the middle of the gas chambers and to say that Germans were getting killed, not Jews, and that there was a risk of Germans being killed, not that the Jews were getting slaughtered in gas chambers. It is the equivalent of going into Rwanda in the middle of the 1994 genocide and saying that there is a risk that Tutsis will be killed while they were being slaughtered. It is the equivalent. I mean, let me tell you, one particular thing that they did not do in this report, they make no invitation, for instance, for the responsibility to protect. They do not remember it because, after all, these are not Jews who are getting killed, apparently. Now, you gave Ambazonians an assignment a moment ago. We need to know this is a US-based institution funded in part by the Congress of the United States, with members of Congress from both houses of Congress sitting in the board of directors, a rather large board of directors. Those are the people we need to take on. The Holocaust Museum, as soon as COVID-19 is over, they should hear from Ambazonians, because everybody visiting the Holocaust Museum should know that the Holocaust Museum has now specialized in promoting genocide in Ambazonia. That is what everybody should know. And the authors of this report, Andrea Gilman and Kyria Fox and the other one, Naomi Kikole, they should be totally ashamed of themselves, because they run an institution there called, the Center for the Prevention of Genocide. They should shut it down. They should shut it down. There is nowhere in the budget provided to them by Congress, and nowhere in their mandate where it is foreseen that they should go to Ambazonia and write a report basically saying, you could kill these people. What are they talking about? About civilians being killed by Ambazonians? I mean, what is La République Cameroon doing? What have they been doing from the beginning? What did they send in the troops there to go and do? Is it because Ambazonia has an army? The only people they have been killing are civilians. So if there is genocide unfolding in Ambazonia, and the Holocaust Museum doesn't have the academic honesty, it has sold its soul to La République Cameroon in exchange for money, and are going out there trying to whitewash what is happening in Ambazonia, they know they are going to be found out. And our people are going to come out once COVID-19 is over. We're going to come to the Holocaust Museum. In the meantime, we are going to make sure that Congress looks into this matter. The members of Congress, people like Mr. Cardin from Maryland, who is on the board, that they know that this is what U.S. taxpayer money is being used for. Incidentally, it is also U.S. taxpayer money that has funded that genocide, because it is U.S. taxpayers' money that has funded the training of B, that has funded the provision of military equipment to B, that has funded the provision of military aircraft and helicopters to B, including after they declared that there were sanctions against La République du Cameroun. It is the same U.S. taxpayers' funding that has moved those resources from out of the north into Ambazonia. And these ladies who wrote this report, they could not even remember that Atanga Polnji said, we are worse than Boko Haram and will be treated worse than Boko Haram. And she's trying to go to Congress. Please, she should go to Congress and tell Congress to call me a terrorist. Let us see under which law she's talking about. These are people who have not read any law at all, yet she's going around saying she's a lawyer, a human rights lawyer. If she was a human rights lawyer, this report will be littered by human rights, by denunciations of human rights violations.
Thank you, in tune point. Dr. Patience, are you a terrorist? You are one of the leaders of this struggle, woman leader. Are you a terrorist?
No, Secretary Chris, I am certainly not a terrorist. When you go and look at the U.S. Holocaust Museum, it states that they inspire citizens and leaders worldwide to confront hatred and prevent genocide and promote human dignity. That's all I am doing. I am there to prevent genocide in Ambazonia. I'm there to talk about the hate crime that is happening in Ambazonia. And I'm there to promote human dignity. I'm doing exactly what the Holocaust Museum stands for. So I am certainly not a terrorist, Secretary Chris.
Thank you. Barrister Inso, Let me say this, and I would like Intumfon's point on this too, because listen, I don't think we have any problem with America leading any mediation to this conflict. The problem we see here is the effort by some people who are federalists, both in the USA and beyond, trying to coward all of us to follow the way of the USA, because the USA, through their Congress, has recommended a federal structure, and they think that, and all this is the French Cameroon lobby in Washington, D.C., that is trying all of this. Barrister, so what do you say? What do you say about this?
Well, Chris, I am very, very, very shocked, because the Holocaust Museum was created by act of Congress. Tax money is being used. American taxpayers are paying for that institution. And the United States Congress established that institution after the slaughter of more than 7 million Jews in Germany. I am surprised that those who run that institution will accept that kind of report from those women. Because, first of all, I'm not so sure it is their role to determine who is a terrorist and who is not. And number two, how can people who were established to fight genocide be encouraging genocide in any part of the world? I'd like to draw the attention of Ambazonians on how those military people in La Republique du Cameroon were trained to kill our people. They were trained by an Israeli who is still living fat in Yaoundé. They used American taxpayers' money. That training was funded by the United States government. And that guy has been living fat on the resources of La Republique du Cameroon, and trained the B to conduct genocide in Ambazonia. The case of Ngabu is most recent in our memory. Those who went to Pinyin and slaughtered all those people in Pinyin were a combination of the B and a few other service people from the army, sent by Atanganji. And for the Holocaust Museum not to see the massacre and the genocide in Ambazonia conducted by La Republique du Cameroon, and go on telling lies about what happens in Ambazonia, that Ambazonians have been killing people. Who were those who declared war on us, La Republique du Cameroon? Ambazonia has no standing army. We were forced to defend ourselves as civilians. And the group that you see from the beginning that were fighting to defend themselves were all civilians. The interim government has just put them together to bring sanity and make sure that we continue to defend our people who are being slaughtered every day by La Republique du Cameroon. How can an institution that the Holocaust Museum, that everybody respected around the world when it was created because of what happened to the Jews, how does Israel think about that? How does Israel think about its citizen that is living fat in La Republique du Cameroon, training people to slaughter our people? How do they think about that? I like to, I don't want to stretch this too far, but if I can remember, the Netanyahu government have been struggling to get Africans out of their country by paying them $3,000 to live. What have black people done to the Israelis? What have we done to the Israelis? These women from their name, Andrea Gilliman, is an Israeli. I'm not casting any aspersions on the state of Israel. Far from it. The state of Israel remains a friend to Ambazonia up to now. But let me say this. This Holocaust Museum has cast aspersions on the actions of the government of Israel. Because how can they accept these women to put this kind of report and they are going around defending it? Even if La Republique paid them how many millions? We have evidence that the embassy of La Republique du Cameroon in Washington put out money for that report to be published. How does the U.S. government see that? They are going to the State Department. The State Department has all the facts.
Barrister John, let me throw some more light on that La Republique du Cameroon donation to the Holocaust Museum. This is what happens. Every year, almost every embassy in Washington, D.C. makes a donation to the Holocaust Museum. It's very important we make this disclosure.
Exactly.
That happens every year. However,
exactly.
just hold on. However, La Republique has never in its history given that museum a dime. They have never given the museum a dime. Not until after December, when the museum got the contract to produce that report that the French Cameroon embassy put in $50,000 to the museum. Thank you.
What those women have done, they have put a lot of suspicion on the killing of the Jews in Germany, the 7,000 Jews, by publishing that kind of report. That kind of report coming from an organization that was created by U.S. Congress for the sake of the Holocaust should not have seen the light of day in that institution, no matter how much they were paid by La Republique du Cameroon.
All right.
So
let's have Ntumfon chip in something before I open the phone line for a very few calls. Ntumfon, please.
Secretary Chris, before Mr. Ntumfon says something, I just wanted to add this. You did mention about the report being a faulty topic, stating that it's a policy brief about atrocities in Cameroon. I picked that up right away. I said that's a misreport. But I want to bring this point to your attention. When you look at the policy options that are for the government of Cameroon, they listed 5 things. They listed that they should cease the targeting of civilians by state security forces. Cease the targeting of civilians by state security forces. That's one thing that they listed.
Right.
They also listed that they should embrace a credible mediation process that includes the voices of armed groups, civil society, and affected Anglophone communities. They listed that they should end discriminatory practices against Anglophones and include Anglophone leaders and affected communities in the discussion, and to launch a credible investigation into all abuses supported by the AU, the UN, and finally to improve access to Anglophone regions by humanitarian groups. But what I wanted to say is this: all of this do not matter. The 3 things that are most important are, 1, for them to accept that Southern Cameroons have already engaged in their own independence process, and that's all they want. Secondly, to accept that there's a Swiss process already on the way, so that if they want any mediation, they should endorse the Swiss talks. And finally, to get the International Criminal Court in the process to make Paul Biya and Macron responsible for all the killings. That's how I see it. And this is really a misreport by them. I just wanted to bring that.
What you just, the outlines you just read there, they sound interesting, they look okay. But then when you go into the recommendations, especially the recommendations coming from their meeting of June 17, the Microsoft Teams meeting, that is where the greater problem lies, because when you begin to suggest as a recommendation that Ambazonian leaders could be labeled or should be labeled as terrorist facilitators, and that the Swiss initiative that everybody knows has been rapidly growing should be seized, should be stopped, and America takes over. You see an agenda exactly in there, because when they say America takes over, we don't have a problem with American tone for noses. Our problem is that the people who want America to take over are preaching a federalism that is not in our vocabulary.
Secretary Chris, there's a lot that's being played out there, and there are a lot of Ambazonians who are playing our people, and I want to explain it here. The reason La République is lobbying for the US to take over mediation or to have a role in mediation is so that La République can disqualify the US as a fair mediator. And so they can say to themselves, we are not coming to the mediation. Look, that is the biggest, most important thing in any negotiation and mediation, is that the two parties have to accept the mediator. And when La République picked Switzerland, they were counting on us rejecting Switzerland. And we put them in their trap when we said yes. So once they got in that trap, they want to wiggle out and come to the United States, knowing that once they take up the United States, they're then going to say that the United States is too close to Ambazonia. And the Ambazonians out there who are advocating these things without absolutely looking at what the game is that La République is playing. There's a second game that's being played. The second game is La République wants another grand national dialogue. That is why you can hear them talk about civil society groups, Anglophone communities. There are no Anglophone communities. There's no civil society group that's fighting a war. There's none. There's no civil society group that's asking for independence. There is no Anglophone community that's asking for independence. Ambazonians have said we have reaffirmed our independence and we will proceed with that independence. And we don't have to be a very organized government or a very organized armed group. We are not even an armed group. We don't have one. We don't have an army. As I said, everyone who is killed in Ambazonia, including people who are carrying guns for the purposes of self-defense, those people are civilians. Even if they're armed to the teeth, they are civilians defending themselves. There are no soldiers in Ambazonia. So I don't want them to create that confusion because they think they're joking with people who don't know what they're doing. They will be in for a good surprise. If they think that they need to have those they call civil society, which essentially is to go and pull in their groups that advocate federalism, that advocate a one and indivisible Cameroon, those people belong to the one and indivisible delegation that is coming to the Swiss talks. They don't belong with Ambazonia. So we have two parties to the talks in Switzerland. It happened 1 year ago in June of last year. Everybody can go back and look at the press statement that was released by the government of Switzerland. We have now the mandate of the two parties to the talks. On the one side, La République du Cameroun, and the other side, Southern Cameroons. Those are the two parties to the talks. Those are the two parties that were recognized by the UN, by the AU, by the US, by the UK, and all this dilly-dallying around has no use at all, and they should forget playing around with it. Now, the other thing that this report is trying to tell us is that if, God forbid, the Jews in Germany had guns to defend themselves, they should never have used those guns. Otherwise, they will be terrorists. God forbid, if the Tutsis had guns, they should not use those guns. That's why they tried to make Kagame a terrorist, and they failed. That is why they tried to make Nelson Mandela a terrorist, and they failed. Again, I want us to make the separation. This is a U.S. institution. It is not linked to Israel. And the people there are U.S. citizens. They are not They are not Israelis. This has nothing to do with Israel. There's an Israeli mercenary that La République is using, as they're using French mercenaries, as they're using mercenaries from other countries. They're using Chinese drones. They're using weapons from the United Arab Emirates. They're using people that they hire from Nigeria. They're using, war criminals like Mbankwi and all that. While they're using those people, we should be very clear about whose fault it is that we have a Holocaust Museum report that promotes genocide. It is the U.S. government and the U.S.-funded U.S. Holocaust Museum. That is who is behind this report. And it also happens that they are the ones who funded the B, trained the B, and set them out to kill us. Now, if you can imagine that the U.S. police force has done what we have seen with people like George Floyd, and it is a civilian force, it is a police force. Now imagine what the US government trained and set loose on us. And there are laws that the US government is violating which are also on their books. There are laws that say that the equipment that they provide for anti-terror cannot be used against civilians. That equipment is now deployed in Ambazonia. They have moved the B. They're using them in Ambazonia. They're using, everything has been moved to Ambazonia. So this is a genocide funded, sponsored by the French and equipped by the US government. The people killing have been trained by the US government, and they do have a responsibility to stop the genocide. And part of it is not to try to tell us that they're going to intimidate us, because they can find the jails where they want to put us if they think we are terrorists. We are not going to stop defending our people because they think they are saying they're going to give us an attack called terrorists. Mr. Biya has done that for the longest time. It has not changed anything, and it will not change anything.
Well, thank you, Ntumfoin. Thank you, Barrister Nsot. Thank you, Dr. Patience. We have, I think, exhausted this subject, and I will open the phone lines for a few calls, just a very, very few calls. The last time we were here and we didn't take few calls, people were very upset. Let me see if we can get a few callers, with questions, ladies and gentlemen. Before you call, make sure that the volume of your television set is turned down. Make sure the volume of your set is turned down before you call, because if you call with an echo in your background, I won't be able to take your call. I will take the calls of those who are ready. Thousands of calls come in within minutes of these open lines, and we don't want to waste time picking calls from people who are not ready. Okay, I think the first caller is right here. Let me see where the call is coming from. Okay. Hello, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, Secretary Chris, and good afternoon to all the panelists in the studio with you there.
Good afternoon, sir. This is the voice of Sama Thomas, I guess.
He's the one.
All right. 1 minute. What is your comment or question, sir?
Well, I want to thank especially my big brother, Comrade Boo Herbert, for the enlightenment which she has given to us all out here, and to say that the Jews shouldn't forget that after the First World War, the League of Nations decided that they should be sent back to what was designated their homeland, and they were sent there, and they claimed it to be their homeland, and they shouldn't attempt to deprive the people of the Southern Cameroons by their action of their own homeland, or else we would term the Jews our own enemies. And the Holocaust of 1945 will be a child's play if they continue down that line. Secondly, I wanted to also appeal to Dr. Abiado that there has been an outcry out there which I am part of that outcry, that the draft that is coming up for Ndonga on Sunday, there shouldn't be a basket put in recognition of Dr. Mfomfo. For Dr. Mfomfo owes his
let's focus, Comrade Thomas. Let's focus on the subject of the day. You can give Dr. Patience a call to discuss your beef with Dr. Mfomfo. Let's not do it here, okay?
Okay, Secretary Chris, but I think I'll pass that message out. But I just want to say congratulations to everybody, to every panelist there, and especially the United States should be aware that if they love freedom, they should also know that the people of Southern Cameroons also cherish freedom and want to live in freedom. Nobody should attempt to thwart our freedom, for we would choose to become terrorists than being slaves pretending to be free people.
Well, thank you for that statement. In fact, I was thinking if anybody should call Ambazonian leaders a terrorist, then George Washington should be a terrorist, should be labeled a terrorist too. All right, thank you for the call. Anybody with a response there, please?
Speaking of George Washington, I mean, the Holocaust Museum should know that when the U.S. Independence War started, there were many ragtag armies in the United States, okay? They were fighting all over the place. The reason that they found George Washington and brought him to lead the struggle, the Independence War, was because they were in tatters. They had the blessing that George Washington was a trained soldier, so he could pull together trained soldiers and they could go out there and fight. Ambazonia does not have that luxury, but we have people who are willing, they are ready to go out and defend our people, and they're civilians. And because they are civilians, they are not organized into an army. We will indeed remain in many ranks, but we are so united on the issue of Ambazonia, which is the only thing that matters. And they're not going to be able to divide us on that particular subject.
Right. All right. Let's get to the next caller. Hello.
Hey, hello, Mr. Secretary. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. May I know where you are calling from, please?
I'm calling from Mizam.
Okay. What is your contribution or question? What is your contribution or question? Quickly.
Secretary, I have two worries. The first one is we have been talking of the mediation with the Swiss. I don't know what it takes for soon, because we have been discussing this for more than 1 year now. I don't know what actually is delaying, because when this thing came up, I was thinking that maybe it would take us just about few months. The Swiss is coming to liberate us, but it has been dragging. What is really the problem? I want you to come clarify us.
Okay.
So that, we should.
Okay. I will let Ntumfon. I think you should to clarify that. Ntumfon, please. Thank you for the call.
Well, thank you very much. I think the people who are facing genocide living there in Mezam State should be absolutely worried, like he's saying, because it is not their fault and it is not our fault. It is the fault of the international community refusing to do what they need to do. Look, when you have a negotiation and you have a mediation, the people that join the mediation and say they are going to support it, like the US did, like the UN, like the AU did, the Commonwealth did, what you expect them to do next is for them to appoint their special envoy to the negotiations. Switzerland has appointed their mediator to the negotiations. The US, to show that they are serious, need to appoint their envoy to the negotiations. The UK needs to appoint their envoy. The UN needs to appoint their envoy, so that we can now gather the delegations from both sides and start the process. Not only that, they need to absolutely ask La République du Cameroon, because they know who is not at the table of negotiations right now. Ambazonia was at the table of negotiations in June of last year. La République was not there. La République has been playing delay tactics to come to the table of negotiation. Now, I want Ambazonians also to understand the kind of progress that we have made. I'll give you one country, South Sudan. If you go and look up in history, the first initiative at negotiations, the independence of South Sudan started in 1983. South Sudan obtained independence in 2012. Now, between that first initiative in 1983 to 5 years before independence, it was only 5 years before independence, before the talks got the endorsement that Ambazonia talks got in Switzerland, which means the UN backed the talks, the US backed the talks, the AU backed the talks. So they backed those talks as we were going into Navisha in Kenya, where they negotiated a comprehensive peace agreement. So you should know the kind of progress you have made. You have leapfrogged the period. The reason La République is delaying to come to the table is because they don't fight with guns at the table, and they don't have a single argument to bring to the table. And they know that the day they walk into that table, that is the same day that the world is going to be inviting them to leave Ambazonia. They know that, and that is why they're delaying. But this thing is like a pregnancy. It does not grow backwards. We will see it. So La République can hide. They can run, but they cannot hide.
Into point, I just like you to clarify a point. There was a commentator in one of the TV stations in French Cameroon who said, those of you who went to Swiss, the reason the Swiss talks are delaying is because we demanded a million francs each.
They said $1 million each. Well, I mean, what else is new? Let me tell you this. First, it is false, totally and completely false. Number two, who would we have been demanding the 1 million from? From HD, the NGO that they said doesn't have any resources? Don't you remember, Secretary Chris, that while we were in Switzerland, they published a report saying that the regime of Mr. Biya was quarreling the fact that we were there. Okay? And they indicated that the reason the Swiss were doing this is because they wanted the port of Douala, they wanted cocoa from Cameroon. So now, who was paying who? So, look, you should not believe, first you cannot believe Equinox TV, which we should sue, for running that kind of nonsense, and you cannot especially believe them when the person who is talking there is an agent of the Biya regime accusing the other side. Now, people keep trying to confuse this stuff. There's something about sourcing. There's a credible source for an information, and there's a non-credible source. Now, if I give you information regarding La République du Cameroun, if I say that La République du Cameroun is slaughtering our people, because I'm an Ambazonian, somebody is going to want to fact-check that story, because I am on one side of the struggle. Now, when you see Ambazonians believing a CPDM propagandist who is sitting on Equinox and saying that Ambazonians were asking for 1 million, you have to ask them, if they have the proof, why are they not putting it out?
Ambazonia, I've been fighting for this struggle. I have a PhD from UCLA. I'm an activist for our cause. So that's all.
Somebody had some background noise over there. I just checked your background. Let me see. Thank you, Ntumfon. Let's get to the next caller here. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Meme.
Okay. What is your contribution, sir? 1 minute.
We really appreciate what you are doing there. It is marvelous for us, and we are thanking that God should continue to guide you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, my first point is that, any freedom fighter in the world, mostly the black, they always call them as terrorists. Nelson Mandela was a terrorist for the first phase of the freedom of South Africa before become a freedom fighters. So we know white always consider them, they always consider Africa as their port, as well to explore. So to just come in immediately to solve the problem, it will be difficult. That is the first point. Then the second point is that last week I struggled to have a contact, but it was not going on Monday. Okay. Yes, the French said that they want to, the French Cameroon said that they want to reconstruct Southern Cameroon. Have they ever construct Southern Cameroon before reconstruct it back? Now, we know of our parents talking about 1961. There were so many institutions which they destroy it all. Or maybe they want to start to reconstruct all their damage from 1961 before going to switch negotiation table. So we don't really know. Maybe they want to start construct WADA, PWG, PowerCam, Tico Seaport, Tico WAF, Limbe Natural Seaport, UN. There are so many institutes that Southern Cameroon had. Cameroon Bank, Tico Airport, Manfe Airport.
There are so many, right? There are so many. Thank you. I think we get the point you are trying to make. Absolutely, there is nothing they can construct. They want to reconstruct. Let them wait for the war to over so that reparations take care of that, right?
Oh, yes.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Okay. I'll take maybe one more caller. This is from the USA, I guess. Hello, sir. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Where are you calling from, please?
Yes. Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Yes. This is Pastor Victor calling, sir.
Oh, hello, Bishop. How are you, sir?
No, I'm doing okay.
Okay, you have 1 minute.
Yes, two things. I wanted that if you had the numbers of those ladies handy or their emails, you could have given to us. I know we can Google those things, but if you have the handy at the end, maybe you can read them out to us to copy.
They are there right on the screen. They've been on the screen forever. You can still find it right now. The Twitter handle, the email, the telephone, they are out there.
Okay, because I'm using my phone, so it's very little. I cannot even see well.
Okay, maybe after you go back. Yes, go on, please.
Yeah, I'll go and look at it on my computer. The next thing I wanted to say is that my prayer is this, that the Holocaust Museum Center of America do not understand that the U.S. State Department knows everything happening in Ambazonia. They know it very well. And any attempt, I am praying that they will, may God use their evil report to expose them to the world. So that even what Donald Trump wanted to do that Congress was quoting, to cut more of their money, should even be done, because the U.S. Congress, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. State Department understands the truth of what is going on in Ambazonia. And to see a credible body like the Holocaust Center or Museum Center to come and write the report they wrote, I think that God wants to expose them the more for them to know that they have been doing evil than good. So that is my prayer. And I just want to say that Ambazonians should stay calm, because that report is going nowhere. It's going nowhere. There is no new thing that they are trying to tell anybody in the U.S. State Department that they do not know about Ambazonia. They know we had our independence in 1961. They know La Republique had independence in 1960. They know all what is happening there. So I just think that it is quite, it's an opportunity just to expose them the more.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the call. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you have their contacts on your screen, the Twitter handles, their emails, and of course, a telephone number to their office in Washington, D.C. So let's launch a crusade on those, using those contacts. Let them know we are upset, we are not happy with what they are trying to do. I'll take the last caller, and this is from Ground Zero. Hello, sir.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir. May I know where you are calling from, please?
Calling from Bermuda Ground Zero, precisely.
Okay. 1 minute. What do you have to contribute, sir?
No, my contribution is just simple. Let me just greet all of you in the studio and give you that congratulation, and that the intellectualism that is in you people, what you people have acquired at the diaspora because of the problems you had here and went to the diaspora, the education you have acquired, it is more enough to defeat all what is going or taking place in that America. Just have that confidence, because I never believed that at this age of which I am now, I would have been seeing a television and seeing people talking, and there is a station of where I was brutally beaten in 1968 when I was just 16 years old as a professional teacher taken by late Father Cunningham. I left very early going to school. I was arrested on Kale and well beaten. And by 1969, up station to that, normal criminal juju beaten by these French military people. I had never believed. So don't waste your time. The intelligence that you people have, it is gifted by God, and there is nothing to disturb it. Have that confidence, you will succeed. And there's a lot of progress we are seeing, and you people will succeed. And we shall one day before we die. I am 70 now. I never believe of that. God bless you. God continue to guide you and protect you people there at the diaspora. Have a nice time.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that, and I will let Barrister John, Tumfoin, and Dr. Patience, please, the last word.
Well, my last word, Chris, is that the Holocaust Museum should be reformed. It is a very important organization for the prevention of genocide around the world. It should not be seen to promote genocide around the world. Number two, La Republique, again, will fail. They have been failing for a very long time. They have been spending money trying to paint us black. It will not happen. Our leaders are hearty and strong. And we will go on and fight to the last man standing. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Barrister John. Tumfoin, please, the last word.
Yeah, first I just like to thank the panelists. This is so beautiful. And Chris, bring a woman every time, please. We don't have enough of our women in the forefront of our struggle, and I know they do a lot of work. So bring them, because there are some fake women down there pretending to be Ambazonians. Let our women show them how this thing is done. Thank you, Doc, for being here today. I'll say one last thing in the form of two proposals. I think that in addition to all the bombardment that we should do on Twitter, on Facebook, on the phone, in the direction of State Department, and I'm not a lawyer, but I believe we should sue the Holocaust Museum, sue them on the grounds of promoting genocide, of denying genocide, which is a crime. I mean, come on now. Nobody can deny that the Holocaust existed. That's what they're trying to do in our case. We should sue them here in the District of Washington. They don't have immunity. We should drag them before the district court in D.C. and teach them a lesson. We should demonstrate. Yeah,
I agree with you.
We should demonstrate to the Congress of the United States that contributions that they receive from governments, especially dictatorial governments like Mr. Biya, are corrupting in nature. And those resources are being used to further the genocide of other people. And we should bring the Jewish community as our partner in this lawsuit. They should not get away with it. We should take action before a court of law.
All right. Dr. Patience, please.
Yes.
The last one. No, before that, Tumfoin,
okay.
You know that that lies in your hands, right? You are the leaders that they're referring to. So I guess you are the one to initiate that with other leaders.
I am just prompting our people because they will hear our first lawsuit that will be filed soon, and there will be piles of lawsuits because there are many of them that will be dragging to court. Even as they contribute to the draft, they should get ready to start contributing towards the lawsuits. We should make sure that these people have nowhere to turn. This is a country of laws. We will drag them to court and demonstrate with pictures and videos and evidence that this is what is going on in Ambazonia, and they have set up a scam to try and deny it.
All right, awesome. Dr. Patience, go on, please.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank my co-panelists that I appreciate being here with you both today. My message for the Southwest, Northwest women is simple, that here in America, we have something called Black Lives Matter. I want to challenge them that Ambazonian lives matter. Let them go out on the streets and protest in Bulu Town, in Yaoundé, that Ambazonian lives matter. That's one challenge for them. And if they cannot do that, let them listen to the video or the audio from the parliamentarian from Boya who is denouncing the Biya regime and join suit, because we'll be going to Boya very soon. With regards to the Holocaust Museum, I really like Comrade Bo's suggestion of suing them. And we want to challenge the co-authors of that report, Andrea Giruman and Kyra Fox, that they need to retract the report and say that there is a genocide right now in Ambazonia and not a risk of genocide in Cameroon, because there is one right now in Ambazonia. Thank you very much for having us here today, Secretary Chris. Thank you so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for honoring this invitation. It has been a really long broadcast, and Dr. Patience, you in person, I didn't intend to keep you this long, but I just had no choice. I thought you added some spices to the whole discussion. Thank you all for coming on board. I look forward to having you again. I want to thank you all on Ground Zero, Ground One, across the globe watching ABC television. I hope that this has been educative and informative for you. Just want to remind you before I leave that Sunday is Donga Mantung Day. Sunday is Donga Mantung Day. We are looking forward to every Ambazonian showing up to fraternize with the comrades in Donga Mantung. Let's turn out, support the people of Ngaribu, support Comrade Opav Mfo, Ngala Info. Let's stand up and again contribute to Donga Mantung and shame the Ngala Gerard of that community, that we Ambazonians, we are taking our destiny into our hands. We are taking our destiny into our hands. Again, thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. You have a great night.
You need a financial instrument that provides a hedge against inflation, 100% guarantees that you will not lose your money, has tax-free growth and distribution, the ability to take an interest-free loan, avoids probate, provides creditor protection, guarantees your family that your income will be replaced should you die, helps you protect yourself financially against chronic, critical, and terminal illness, and of course allows you to take money anytime for any reason at any age without a tax penalty. You need only as little as $50 to invest per month. Contact Irene Fombo, tel 513-5014-177, or send an email to irenenpmsn@gmail.com. You need a financial instrument that provides a hedge against inflation, 100% guarantees that you will not lose your money, has tax-free growth and distribution, the ability to take an interest-free loan, avoids probate, provides creditor protection, guarantees your family that your income will be replaced should you die, helps you protect yourself financially against chronic, critical, and terminal illness, and of course allows you to take money anytime for any reason at any age without a tax penalty. You need only as little as $50 to invest per month. Contact Irene Fombo. Tel 513-5014-177 or send an email to irenenpmsn@gmail.com. You need a financial instrument.
Chinese are ruling the Chinese land. Japan is ruled by Japanese. England is governed by Englishmen. America is governed by Americans. So Africa must be ruled by Africans. I wanna know who owns the land. We must rule from Cape to Cairo. We must rule our purpose land. I say, we want to know who owns the land. I want to know who owns the land. Aslan, hey, Papa Aslan, Papa Aslan, Papa Aslan. Must be free. Angola want to know who owns the land. Mozambique want to know who owns the land. Namibia want to know who owns the land. I say, so what you want to know who owns the land. Zimbabwe want to know who owns the land. African freedom fighters want to know who owns the land. Purpose land. Now listen to the history. We've been here since creation. over than ever. Now we are the crossroads. On the more, don't be like. Feeling over than ever. On the more, don't be like. Oh, Falimu Maya Vera Baba. Oh, Falimu Jasu Yaraka. Oh, Falimu Tizanya Vetonye. Oh,